Good evening. Ask for a roll call from the board members.
Member Glenn present.
Member Ryan present.
Member Callahan present.
Member Meade present. Excuse me. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of the public meeting and may transmit the meeting through any other meeting. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledgeable and permissible. I'm also going to take the liberty to read from the Planning Board's public hearing rules and regulations. Planning Board reserves the right to administer oaths through the chair, summon witnesses, call for production of papers, cross-examine any person giving testimony during proceedings, declare recess, limit debate, inspect the subject site or buildings during reasonable hours, and adjourn the hearing for cause. The order of business will be announced by the chair. All questions will be directed to the chair. Any person wishing to speak, please raise your hand for recognition from the chair. When recognized, please stand, give your name and address, specific interest in the proceeding, and special credentials, if any, pertaining to the presentation. Please speak slowly and within the context of the hearing matter. Hearing is being stenographed and taped for the public record. The Planning Board reserves the right to exclude any unnecessary, irrelevant, repetitive, or harassing presentations. Cross-examination between parties in interest or any other person will be permitted only after the due recognition from the chair. All documents, papers, and plans introduced at the hearing shall be clearly identified by name or some other designation, and the person so introducing them shall be identified by name and address. A Planning Board exhibit letter will be assigned to each submittal unless the submittal has been specifically identified by an exhibit letter. When excerpts from case law are cited, the complete text of the findings shall be furnished to the Planning Board within 14 days. Okay, so much for housekeeping. I'm gonna bounce around a little bit from our agenda. First is anybody that may be out there. I have a letter addressed to the department regarding 92 Sagamore Street, Todd Egan, the applicant, site plan review application. Dear Planning Board, as per our discussion today with the Planning Department, please continue this matter from Wednesday, April 11, 2018 until the next meeting in May. So I have a motion to accept the continuance.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Also have a letter sent to the board. We represent LBC Partners and their affiliates, Hancock Business Center LLC, American Eagle Investment LLC, Place at Parking Way Q LLC, and Parking Way Q Business Center LLC, previously LBC. LBC and its affiliates have submitted applications to the Planning Board for approval of subdivision plans for the following. Number 1, 1534 to 1538, 1546 and 1550 to 1556 Hancock Street. Case number 2017 subdivision -01. 2, 100 to 134 Parking Way, case number 2017 subdivision 2, and number 3, 119, 151 Parking Way, case number 2017 subdivision 03. The Planning Board hearings for these subdivision plans were continued to a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, April 11, 2018. On behalf of the LBC, we respectfully request that the hearing be continued to a later meeting of the Planning Board. Sincerely, Dan Bailey. I have a motion to accept the request for continuance. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Before I get into... Oh, yeah, thank you. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from...
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Sean. I'll also recognize a letter that's been sent by the Department of Environmental Protection regarding local planning board's responsibility regarding Chapter 91 general license certificates. Dear Planning Board, as you may be aware, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection administers the Massachusetts Public Waterfront Act, MGL, Chapter 91A, subsection 18, commonly referred to as Chapter 91. The Chapter 91 law is intended to I won't go through them all, but protect and promote the public interest in the waterways, public health, safety, general. As a trustee for the Chapter 91 mandate, Mass DEP is responsible for licensing all structures, filling, and use associated thereto, including docks, piers, and within tidelands, great ponds, and navigable rivers. In May of 2017, a new Chapter 91 license, the General License Self-Certification, was made available to eligible owners of small, non-commercial residential docks and piers. The General License Certification, GLC, provides owners of such small docks and piers with a streamlined, simplified, and less expensive process for licensing their structures. As described in the statute, local planning boards have a key role in the licensing and permitting process of Chapter 91. Chapter 91 law gives planning boards the opportunity to review and provide input to Mass DEP from any Chapter 91 license or permit before it is issued. Now, under the new GLC, the planning board may elect to have more significant role in the Chapter 91 licensing/permitting process. This change gives the planning board the opportunity to provide input to Mass DEP if desired. Under the GLC option, the applicant is required to send to your board a statement or a copy of their completed self-certification form and public notice describing their project. Therefore, the board will most likely receive copies of GLCs and public notices in the upcoming months as residential dock and pier owners pursue their self-certification in time for the 2018 boating season. Your board does not need to provide comments to Mass DEP on these projects unless there are specific relevant concerns that you want to bring to our attention. But the documents that the planning board will receive, and what does the planning board need to do? One, the planning board will receive the statement of the project with a site plan from the GLC applicant. This statement will likely be completed, will be a completed copy of the GLC application with the site plan, that is the sketch of the dock/pier, and subject parcel, including the description of the proposed use, location, dimension, setback, mode of work. Along with the statement, the planning board will receive a copy of the public notice in the newspaper or local circulation that describes the project. If Mass DEP receives no comments from the board, and if the project meets the GLC eligibility requirements, Mass DEP will stamp and affirm the self-certification form and send it to the applicant licensee to register at the Registry of Deeds. The only Mass DEP affirms the once the Mass DEP affirms the self-certification, there is no appeal option of the GLC. You should be aware of that all GLCs will need municipal approvals, other municipal approvals, such as the Conservation Commission and coastal work projects. We encourage you to go to our website to help thoroughly understand the Chapter 91 license self-certification process. It's signed by Ben Lynch, who is the section chief for Mass DEP Waterways Regulations. Okay, I'm going to go to the business portion of the agenda first. Under the business, new business, presentation and review to endorse minor modification to the decision for 57 Quincy Shore Drive, Planning Board Case 2016-16, previously approved by the Planning Board on April 12, 2017.
Very good. Well, thank you, everyone. We're the developers for 57 Quincy Shore Drive. And,
would you identify yourself, please, sir? Why don't you use the podium, too? Thanks.
Got it. My name is Andrew Flynn. This is my partner, Dave Hunt. We're the developers for 57 Quincy Shore Drive. These are architects from Teal, Michael LeBlanc, and Sarah Dunbar. We're incredibly excited to break ground on the project in a few weeks. We're here to provide just a quick update On the building, we've made a few minor modifications on the facade, just with a focus on the gateway parcel and really the durability and longevity of the building, just to make sure it holds up there over the long term. And this is where we are, and we're proceeding to break ground. We've been working with DPW to coordinate all of the requisite aspects on that front, and looking forward to building a great project. And myself and David will be on site every day, so if there's ever any issues, feel free to reach out to us directly. Our cell phone numbers will be posted on the construction fence. We're focused on running a safe and a secure job site, throughout the duration of the construction period, and very much looking forward to working with all the relevant stakeholders.
Want to just briefly describe the change?
Sure. So and I'll turn it over to Michael in a moment, but really our main change was, more the evolution of taking from the conceptual design from several months ago to really as we're prepared toward finalizing the construction documents. And ultimately we ended up going towards a bit of a more masonry style facade. And the real driver for that was what we were trying to do was take the more commercial urban context from coming over the bridge and help really embrace that transition down to the residential fabric of Quincy Shore Drive. So we feel that our building has kind of embraced that transition, and again, that we think the masonry will just hold up better than some of the hardy board materials that we're to inspect, and particularly with all the cars going by and the acoustics and the exhaust and some of the other just durability concerns we had. We've opted to upgrade and enhance the facade to a little bit more of a masonry style. And if there's any additional questions on the design aspects, our architects can certainly speak to that as well.
Sure, I'll just say a couple quick words. We're always refreshed when we're able to add quality to a design.
Identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael LeBlanc from UTL. We're always refreshed when we can add quality to the exterior of the building. I think in this case, the clients were really concerned to make sure that the building was going to be durable, low maintenance, and that spending a little bit more money on the exterior materials seems like a good idea to them. Basically, what we're doing is taking, starting as Andrew said, from a really strong concept of a beacon on the corner and a couple of different types of cladding materials, to refining it down to masonry. We use that masonry in a couple of different ways. We have a kind of broader use of masonry across the facades. Around the windows, we have a really a second type of masonry material, which is much more detailed and fine-grained and textured. We think it's going to give the building a sort of really nice quality and a lot of energy and beauty on the facades.
Any questions?
Just a question. So this building was the, or if my memory serves me correct, it had like a sort of like a lighthouse tower, the original design concept. Is that?
It was a beacon on the corner, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this looks better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
The previous owner, when he was before us, there was concerns with the parking and the entrance to the parking garage. Has that changed?
No, we have kept the entrances to the parking garage in the same location, and we've kept 2 parking spaces per unit.
So the same number of parking spaces?
That's correct.
And the height of the building is the same?
It's actually a little bit lower, but materially the same, yes.
Any other questions? Department, Steve.
Good evening, Planning Board Chairman and members. Rob Stevens with the Planning Department. This matter, as you know, was reviewed by this board several months ago. The applicant in January visited the department and proposed these changes. There's also, just so the board's aware, a slight minor adjustment to the position of the building, less than a foot, and a slight modification to the front door. It's facing a different direction. After listening to these suggested changes, we felt that it was an improvement on the original plans. We did consult Jay Duca, the Director of Inspectional Services, as well as the engineering office on any issues with that, and they, both those departments felt that it was a minor modification and that the department can continue to work with the developer on that. So we're actually very encouraged by the improved facade, and I look forward to seeing this building be built.
Good. Any questions of Mr. Stevens? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the minor modifications to the originally approved permit for 57 Quincy Shore Drive, Planning Board Case 2016-16. Motion to approve.
Motion.
To second.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you.
The next item under new business is a presentation to review to endorse a minor modification to the decision for 150 Hancock Street, Planning Board Case 2015-44, previously approved by the Planning Board April 13, 2016. Someone here representing the applicant?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry.
sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Mark Sullivan, Shoe and Company Architect. We're proposing to make minor modifications to the exterior of the building, as well as minor modifications to the floor plans that were previously approved for architectural access board code requirements as far as group 1 bathrooms and bedrooms. Previously approved, we had this facade treatment with paneling near the windows, as well as a kind of cedar siding for the main entrance. We're proposing to go with the cedar siding for the entrance, except alter the color slightly so that it breaks up the building further, as well as remove some of that paneling that was next to the windows. Create a stronger base color towards the bottom. Ground floor, we do have 13 units up above, as well as parking garage on the ground floor. The floor plan changes, as I mentioned previously, were minor in regards to adhering to building code, group 1. Thank you, appreciate it. Group 1 and group 1 bathrooms and bedrooms. We moved slight alterations with just the bathrooms and the bedrooms. Other than that, the entire floor plans have remained the same. Bedroom counts remain the same, unit counts remain the same, and total square footages remain the same as well. So our major modification had to do with the facade changes, breaking it up more with that cedar siding as opposed to a continuous same color cedar siding just broken up by the window panels.
Any questions, Mr. Sullivan? I know you're wearing multiple hats tonight, Mr. Director.
So we like the look that they've proposed. The panels that were next to the windows were, I don't want to say multicolored, but there were a number of colors that were represented there. In them coming back in, it gave us a chance. There's a new, if you will, development team that's taking the same plans and going full. Gave us a chance to talk about the outside, and again, as a gateway project coming into North Quincy, right over to the Concert Bridge. This is the former Pasta site for anybody that is paying attention to which site this says. We just thought it gave us another bite at the apple, and I think these are all improvements that we're very comfortable with. There was no substantial change inside the building. As you may remember, that was where we had some earlier concerns. We wanted to make sure that the parking worked. We wanted to make sure that there was snow storage out front of the building for the little entranceway that was coming in. It does utilize one of the parking spaces, but nothing else has changed on it. And as far as the work that had to be done on the bathrooms, we consider that a very minor modification. So, absent anything else, the planning department feels strongly that this is a minor modification, and the improvements to the facade of the building, I think, are consistent with what we're shooting for in any gateway into the building. So that would be my recommendation, to accept the minor modifications as minor modifications.
Okay, I entertain a motion to accept the minor changes that have been made to the decision for 150 Hancock Street, planning board case 2015-44, that was approved by the planning board on April 13th of 2016.
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you for your time.
The next item on the business agenda is the rear of 12 and 29 Hoover Avenue, planning board case 2016-subdivision-01. Review and termination to sign off on the definitive subdivision, 12R and 29 Hoover Avenue, planning board case 2016 subdivision-01.
Good evening. Wasn't expecting this one so early, but we've submitted an as-built. Yeah, no, well, I still got to stick around anyway. But we submitted an as-built plan around, and unfortunately, I don't have that plan with me at the moment. But there is, we've got a peer review comment back with regards to a retaining wall on lot 3. And it's basically, it's a mixture of components, kind of a stone gravity wall meeting a wood retaining wall. And there was concern with regards to how that transition was going to be put together. But for the most part, that was the only concern raised for the as-built. The drainage is installed and is working. We had some good storm events through the winter that kind of proved that fact. I was happy to see that come through. But for the most part, the only thing left to do was really let the grass grow and get the final pavement down, and we're good to go. So we got a comment back from Mr. Duker just a few moments ago, and he raised the same concern about the wall, that the applicant and proponent for the project is in the audience tonight, Mr. Robert Matty, and he's prepared to do whatever's needed, make it a condition of approval to move forward to rectify that situation. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the board?
Is that lot though, hi Jim,
Hey.
is that lot the one that backs up to Hillsborough that has the retaining wall?
Yeah, that has a common line with the town of Braintree, yes.
Okay, all right, that one, okay.
Oh, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, I was thinking of, remember, I think last time you were here on this project, I live nearby, so I see it.
Yeah.
But there was a neighbor, or a butter, who was,
No, that's, so as you head down the hill,
Yeah.
in the Quincy to the right, I guess Hillsborough's over
Yeah.
there. It goes lot 1, lot 2's the
Okay.
rear lot, and then 3 and 4
okay,
on the left. Lot 3, it's the property line between lot 3 and lot 2.
okay.
And then, Mr. Harrington, the hero of the day, is here to answer any questions as well.
Aaron?
I apologize, I was in the hallway, I thought that this would probably be one of the last things you did under business or something like that at the end. So I apologize for not being in the room. This project is, 99% complete. The landscapers are a couple of weeks behind schedule because of all the snow and cold weather we had in March, but they're putting the 4 inches of topsoil on all the lots right now. They expect to be spraying the hydro seed on the properties before the end of this week. And the final piece to be done for the roadway itself is to put the finished course of asphalt on the street and the sidewalks. The base coat is in, and we're just waiting for the weather to be a little bit warmer and for the asphalt company to get back in business and put us on the schedule.
That's July or August, but.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of
The weather
planning,
is cool. Warm.
we were planning on early June realistically, but we probably wouldn't get them out there before that. But we have, we're here this evening, we're asking tonight from you to get a release of the subdivision covenant so that we can sell 3 of these houses. There are 4 lots, there are 4 homes. The homes are finished, they're ready for sale. 3 of them are under agreement. We're asking for a partial release for lot 2, lot 3, and lot 4. You can hold the release for lot 1 until that one is sold and keep our feet to the fire for anything that isn't done that needs to be finished, like the paving. We've also spoken to our paving contractor. We've got an estimate of what it will cost to finish that work. It's $16,000 roughly. And we have a letter from South Shore Bank, which is the commercial lender on the construction loan. And their vice president of commercial lending has stated that he will escrow the $16,000 at closing for the first house, put it in a separate account, only to be used to finish the paving on the road and sidewalks. And that he won't release that money without written instructions from the city of Quincy. So that's where we are right now. We've got 3 houses sold. 1 closing is next Thursday. 2 closings are scheduled for next Friday. The ones on Friday will probably be delayed a week or so for punch list items. But we've got 3 closings scheduled before this board will meet again. So we respectfully request that we get partial releases for 3 of the 4 houses this evening if you choose to do that. Thank you.
Mr.
Any
Chair,
questions?
yeah, just a quick question, are there trees in, are there, I guess 2 questions, were street trees included as a requirement in this development? I don't know.
The curbing is at the edge of the roadway, so there's the roadway, the curb, and the sidewalk. So there isn't a strip of grass between the sidewalk and the street. So all the trees that are on site are actually on the lots of homeowners.
Okay,
So that they're not actually street trees.
okay.
But there is landscaping and trees on all the houses.
Looks a little bare right now, but I'm sure that'll change.
Yeah, it's all going to grow in. The issue we have with the retaining wall was related to when you drive down the street. There are 4 houses. There are 2 on the left-hand side, 1 at the end. The second house on the left-hand side, when they were attempting to put in that foundation, the water table was a little higher than where they expected it to be. So that foundation was set about 1.5 to 2 feet higher than where they had expected it to be. And what that did was, the driveway, I can show you. This is the house right here, the second house. The driveway for this house came straight down from the front. The garage doors are on the front, and the driveway came down to the street here. When that house became 1.5 feet or 2 feet higher, that driveway was too steep. And so it would have been, it would have been uncomfortable for a person to park there and get out of their car with the angle of the driveway. And it also probably would have been unsafe in the winter with snow and ice. So the developer switched the garage doors to the side so that he could loop the driveway around to have a much more gradual pitch. And that, by doing that, that necessitated putting this wall in along here to support the side of the driveway. So that's kind of the issue about that wall and where that came from. But it was a result of, you know, a change that was made on site because of the water table and trying to make the garage safer and work better.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Stevens?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and planning board members. Rob Stevens with the Planning Department. I've been working with the Inspectional Services Department and Engineering Department, as well as the independent peer review engineer for the past couple of months on this project. When the applicant revealed these changes in the driveway and the elevation, naturally the original plan sets all became essentially obsolete. The applicant, you heard from Mr. Burke, the applicant's engineer, has been engaged during this process of providing as-built. He's gone back out onto the site and resurveyed it so we had accurate elevations. Because those that know the site know that this is at the crown of a hill. And you know, the stormwater was our #1 concern with these change in elevations. So through the peer review as well as the city engineering office, they have reviewed the documents, the updated stormwater documents provided by DeSalle Burke, and they believe that, you know, the system will operate in good manner. The applicant's attorney, Mr. Harrington, did accurately pinpoint that a retaining wall needed to be installed with the driveway as a result of this elevation change. Again, it was something that was originally done in the field. So the city's had a little bit of a difficult time agreeing to this wall because it was essentially site boulders were used, and you know, soil can drain through those site boulders. As recent as about an hour and a half ago, there was a communication from the Director of Inspectional Services indicating that he's still not satisfied. Now, with that said, the retaining wall is not a structural bearing wall at all. It's holding back earth, and I think the stated concerns is the long-term functionality of that wall. So we do feel it's minor in nature. So with that, the applicant is requesting the partial release of 3 out of the 4 house lots. As we reviewed the original decision by this board, in my recommendation, it's noted that the applicant has provided the grant of sewer easement. There is a sewer piece that's city sewer taking sewage from folks outside of the project site, you know, carrying on. So that applicant has provided that sewer easement. It has been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. That was in compliance or conformance with special condition number 8. We have also received the declaration of easements, covenants, and restrictions for the Hoover Ave Extension Homeowners Association. That also has been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. That satisfies our special conditions number 3, 4, 5, and 6 as it pertains to the operations, maintenance, and financing of the stormwater system. This will be a private way. The applicant has requested or has indicated the hardship with the top coat of asphalt, and I would concur with Attorney Harrington that we do have an estimate for that hardtop and evidence that, you know, the bank will hold that funding in escrow. So With that, I would recommend that this board does approve the partial releases of the subdivision covenants for lots 2, 3, and 4. We're going to hold lot 1 to a future meeting, but approval of those with the following 2 conditions. The developer shall escrow $16,000 from the proceeds of the sale of the first house for the estimated cost of installing the top coat of asphalt on the roadways, sidewalks, and driveways. And condition number 2, the developer shall resolve the outstanding comment related to the retaining walls on lot 3 to the satisfaction of Tetra Tech, the city's peer review engineer, and the director of inspectional services. And that's my presentation.
The only thing I would add, Mr. Stevens, is that we used to, if there was an escrow account, documentation to that effect be held by the treasurer collector.
Okay.
You know, things may have changed over the last 15 years, but that's the way it used to be. So that there's something on file with the city, and with the treasurer collector, as an escrow account.
All right, I will add that to the condition.
Okay. The department has made a recommendation. Do I have a motion to that effect? Which is, just to refresh everyone's memory, that the board approved the partial release of the subdivision covenant for lots 2, 3, and 4 of the Hoover Avenue Extension subdivision, subject to the 2 following conditions. The developer shall escrow $15,896 from the proceeds of the sale of the first house for the estimated cost of installing the top coat of asphalt on the roadways, sidewalks, and driveways. And condition number 2, the developer shall resolve the outstanding comment related to the retaining wall, on lot 3 to the satisfaction of Tetra Tech, the city's peer review engineer, and the director of inspectional services. A motion to accept. For a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We have 3 additional items, all of which are approval not required. The first was for 50 Hadley Road, which is planning board case 2018-ANR02. Review and determination to endorse the approval not required for 50 Hadley Road. While I'm waiting for a 5th member of the board to take his seat, I just asked for a roll call. That's you.
Member Barry, present.
Good, thank you. That the approval not required plan was properly filed within the subdivision control law, filed with the clerk. And one of 2 things, either we approve it or disapprove it, or at the expiration of 21 days. And since the board did not meet last month, that 21 days was growing quickly on us. So I endorsed the plan on behalf of the department and on behalf of the board, which is allowed under my signature is allowed over land court and the registry of deeds. So this at 50 Hadley Road subdivision was endorsed, as was the subdivision plan, approval not required for 38 to 40 John Street, same situation. And the third and last one for 83 Dysart Street, they were all endorsed because if they weren't endorsed, they would have been approved by failure to act on them. So that's just for the board's information. All right, now we can get to the agenda. The first item on our agenda is major revisions to 235, 239 Farrington Street, Planning Board Case 2017-09.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Attorney Henry Levin of 875 7th Avenue, Quincy. I represent EY Realty LLC, the owner of the property,
question. This has been an ongoing determination of what was going to be there. My client had originally proposed 4 units, 4 individual units, and after meeting with the planning department and the building department, it was decided, their input, that it was too large for the area. And as a result, we cut it back to 3 units. It's a 10,000 square foot lot with a building frontage of 66 feet. Each unit has its own driveway with a garage, so there's parking for 6 cars, I'm sorry, two per unit. All of the zoning requirements, except for the FAR, are met in this particular case, and we have a petition before the Board of Appeals for a variance on the FAR. Mr. Brian Donahue, the architect, is here. If you have any questions, or Mr. Hughes is also here, the owner.
Mr. Levin, when it's on the ZBA, when?
We don't have the date yet. We were waiting to find what was on this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donahue, you want to make a presentation? Or any questions? Brian, why don't you make a brief, yeah, please. That's a long winded.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Brian Donahue, Principal Donahue Architect. We were approached by Mr. Yu some time ago to try and get a project that would be more amenable to the town, the planning department, and the board. So we took a unit out of the scope and moved down to 3 units. So it's basically a townhouse set up off the street. Each individual unit has its own driveway. And it meets all the zoning criteria in terms of setbacks, paving, most of the other criteria other than what Henry mentioned, because we've got 2,600 square foot units in lieu of, that's about 0.7 FAR in lieu of 0.4, which is the zoning board requirement. So we've got a little bit larger units for better marketability, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, right? And it's a relatively simple mansard roof style building. We think it fits in with the neighborhood. A lot of the homes along Farrington are very dense in terms of 2 families that are lot line to lot line almost. So we don't feel like this is an imposing structure in the neighborhood. So it's as you can see, the 3rd level is built into the roof to give it a little bit of scale. 1 garage door and a main entryway for each unit. They're about 22 by 42 deep. Standard double hung windows, siding, and architectural shingles, and panel systems on the 1st floor. So it's relatively simple design. So that's pretty much it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Donahue? Or Mr. Levin?
Brian, what's the height on the building?
It's less than 30 feet. Well, actually, it's 32 feet to the ridge. It's the highest point.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Mr. Levin,
Yes.
are these going to be rental units or condos?
Condos.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Mr. Walsh?
Yes, the,
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, go ahead. I was going to close the public hearing. Why don't you go ahead, bring it.
all right. So the department, after consideration of the site plan and comments from city staff, the department recommends that the board approve the site plan under Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17 under sections 9.51 site plan review, following to the subject following conditions. And we have our standard general conditions, and I'm going to skip over to the special conditions and read those for the record. Special condition number 1, the applicant shall conduct a pre-demolition hazardous material survey, i.e. asbestos containing materials, fluorescent lights, PCB containing materials, including ballast, mercury containing thermostats and switches, etc., and provide a copy of the survey to the Quincy Health Department. If hazardous materials are found in the building, then the applicant or its licensed abatement contractor shall consult with the Quincy Health Department regarding abatement measures and monitoring of abatement work. Second special condition, as the project site is located in a residential neighborhood, the applicant shall consult with the Quincy Health Department on noise mitigation measures for project-related noise-generating activities in order to comply with local and state regulations. Special condition number 3, the applicant shall replace the current sidewalk with a new bituminous concrete sidewalk with granite curbing along the entire frontage of the property. And special condition number 4, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit an updated stormwater report stamped and signed by a professional engineer to the city engineer for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. I neglected to, it is a public hearing and it's a continued public hearing. But ask anybody that wishes to speak in favor of this project. And if you have some reluctance to speak, there are signature sheets on the wall, on the windowsill, if you will, on the side. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Third and last time. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? A motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from the department. We have a recommendation, excuse me. Someone want to make that form of a motion? And again, the recommendation with our standard conditions and with the special conditions that Mr. Walsh has outlined.
I will make a motion to approve, subject to the condition as outlined by the department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
The next item that we've not continued is 37 Bates Avenue, planning board case 2018-02. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, the planning board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 11, 2018, on or about 7:49, in the first floor board's commissioners room, Quincy City Hall, 1305 Hancock Street, Quincy, Mass, on the application of 37 Bates Trust, 245 Willard Street, Quincy, Mass, 02169, for a site plan review on the Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 9.5.1, site plan review, and special permit under Section 5.1.17, which is the parking permit. The applicant proposes the demolition of an existing single-family residential structure and construction of a new 12-unit apartment building with 16 parking spaces. The applicant also proposes landscaping, drainage, and other site modifications. The property contains 11,226 plus or minus square feet of land and is located at 37 Bates Avenue. The subject property is located within a Business B zoning district and is shown in Assessors Plan 4082, Plot 1, Lot 20. Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Edward Fleming. I'm here on behalf of Galcon Development LLC. I'm joined by Sean Galvin and Janet Batson from Galvin Development, and also Jim Burke from DeSalle Burke. Jim will spend a little bit of time just kind of explaining some of the site-related conditions and drainage in a moment. As you identified, Mr. Chairman, the property that we're dealing with tonight is 37 Bates Avenue in West Quincy. It's located in a Business B zoning district, although much of the buildings and properties that surround this site and the existing use of this site has been residential. This is located within a Business B zoning district. As you indicated, the applications that have been submitted tonight are for site plan review under Title 17.9.5 and a special permit parking waiver under 17.5.17 under Title 9.4. Bates Avenue, which is shown on the plan, is located on the corner of Bates Avenue and California Avenue. The site is about 11,226 square foot parcel, and is presently improved by a single-family home that's been there for a long time. The Galvins have owned this property for about a year, and leased the property for a short period of time, but are now seeking to develop the parcel. As I indicated, it's located within a Business B zoning district. Not only have the Galvins owned this particular site, but they've also owned and developed a number of different properties on California Avenue, including, and those matters have come also before this board. One being 109 California Avenue, which is directly adjacent to the site on California Ave, which is a 12-unit apartment building. That was formerly a single-family home as it was. It was a somewhat deteriorated condition when the Galvins acquired that site. They sought to develop it and developed a 12-unit building on that site, again, an apartment building. Directly across the street, if you remember, 108 California Ave was a very deteriorated building. It was vacant for a number of years. As Mr. Galvin told me one time, he walked by and there were all the cats were in the window staring back out at him. It was really a deteriorated, unusable property. That property was also developed at 108 California Ave into a 10-unit apartment building. And then the Galvins more recently acquired property at 243 Willard Street, which is on the bottom corner of California Avenue, where they developed not only their commercial office, which they're occupying, that also has a office space for another user, but also developed the rear of the site into 6 additional apartment units. So this is a continuation of that effort right on California Ave. California Ave from Willard Street to Bates Avenue is a very short strip. And then California Ave continues, as you know, over Bates Avenue, kind of back along the highway. But this strip really, which is Zone Business B, is essentially an unutilized area of land. And this is a continuation of the Galvin's improvements to that area and substantial investment. I think the neighbors are quite pleased, to be honest with you, with the investment the Galvins have made in this area, and they expressed that to us when we had a neighborhood meeting with Councilor Palmucci just recently, that they certainly acknowledge that the Galvins have improved the properties in this neighborhood. So the proposal that's before you tonight, very similar to the proposals that were at 109 and 112. In fact, the rendering that we have at the bottom here is a rendering of the 109 California Avenue property, because it will be, the building that's being proposed tonight will be very much similar to that building. Although the slope of the land is a little different, but the style will be very similar. It will be, as shown there, this particular building will be also a 12-unit residential apartment building. It will be all 2-bedroom units with bathrooms. Be 3 stories in total height with that architectural pitched roof, residential pitched roof. Each of the units will be approximately 830 square feet, give or take. And the site will be improved also by a 16-car parking lot in the rear of the site, much like 109 and 108 California Avenues that provide parking in the rear. The drainage, as I said, has been professionally designed by DeSalle Burke Engineering, and Jim Burke will talk about that in a moment. The 2 matters of relief, as we said, are site plan approval and also the special permit parking waiver. And the reason for the parking waiver that we're requesting is that we're asking for 16 parking spaces for the 12 residential units. And they'll be laid out in such a fashion that they will be closer to the property line than is allowed by the ordinance. And by the modifications of the zoning ordinance, as you know, this board has the authority to grant a special permit to allow waivers from strict compliance with the parking requirements. We think this is a great continuation of the improvements that the Galvins have made in the neighborhood. We think that it echoes the residential character of the neighborhood, and really will just be a great improvement. I know we had, as I indicated, we had a neighborhood meeting. Neighbors that attended, I think, were generally pleased with the style of the development, although they had concerns about the volume of traffic on Bates Avenue, primarily in the afternoon hours.
and really called on the city councilor, Palmucci, to ask the city to do a little bit of a traffic analysis and study on Bates Avenue. That traffic, as we all know, it's not necessarily driven by the residential developments in the community. It's more driven by the folks that are trying to escape the highway, the traffic on 93 by getting off the highway early and then cutting down Bates Avenue. And that's causing quite a bit of congestion and concern in the neighborhood about that. And the Galvins, as property owners in the community, echo the same concerns. They certainly don't want cars speeding down Bates Avenue and causing disruption and danger for their tenant base. So we're very confident and comfortable that this is a great kind of a nexus from the commercial uses on Willard Street into the smaller residential development on neighborhood and further into Bates Avenue, into California Ave. With anything further from me, I'll be here for additional questions. As I indicated, Mr. Galvin's here as well, but I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Burke just to kind of walk through the site.
Before you turn it over, any questions from Mr. Fleming from the board?
Good evening, Jim Burke with DeSalle Burke Sala now. Thanks for the introduction. We have I think about a 11,000 square foot lot, and we're proposing a building and parking lot. We're increasing impervious area. You can say significantly on it, but we're also providing a 64 unit Cultec chamber system to mitigate that kind of runoff generated off that site. We did do some soil testing. We found coarse sands and gravels. Did find a large boulder, and Scott Galvin was standing right next to me, so he's knowledgeable about that, and he knows he has to remove that to put the drainage in. So I'm not too concerned with that. As usual, you know, the drainage works. We've got all brand new utilities coming in for fire protection and domestic water as well as sewer. We've got a review letter from Quincy Engineering Department, and we're prepared to answer all those questions and continue our repartee with the Quincy Engineering Department. As far as access from the lot, there's a driveway off of the lower side of the parking lot, so the grades actually work well. There's pedestrian access to the adjacent lot as well that the Galvins control. So there's some symbiotic associations going on with these two lots that work quite well. But if you have any questions, glad to answer them with any of the utilities and stormwater how it manages itself. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Burke. All right, this is a public hearing. I'd ask anyone that wishes to speak in favor, come forward, identify yourself. And as I said, come on up.
I'm Carol Dumas. I live at 69 Common Street. I've lived there for 27 years, and I did go to the other meeting. I do approve of this project. I think we need more housing in Quincy. These are local developers, and they are very mindful of what they design. The traffic is a huge concern in the city. I live on Common Street. Every single one of you has been by my house, I'm sure, multiple times. It is a residential street, but people consider it a major cut-through. The fact is that the average household in Quincy has 2 cars. 59% of those people in those houses drive to work alone. The traffic is not coming from these developments, and it's not all of it is coming from cut-through traffic from other places. So I think that to stop housing that we desperately need because of traffic is a mistake. So I do approve of this development.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Good evening. Jack Donahue. I live at 98 California Ave, which is directly abutting the property we're speaking about. I've known the Galvins for a number of years. They've been nothing but gracious and hospitable to my mother, who was a lifelong resident of 98 California Ave for the last 90 years, just passed. My neighbors and myself, we all showed up at the meeting the other night and voiced concerns about certain aspects. I don't know if a lot of it's attributed or anything's attributed to the buildings that they're doing because they do good work, they're very polite, they're very good with the community. And I would say that I have no qualms whatsoever with what they're doing. And like I say, my home is directly in front of them, and the houses that they speak of, I knew of, and they are correct. They did improve the neighborhood dramatically. So I hope that they can achieve what they're doing, and I hope our neighbors are happy that things can be refined with the traffic and the congestion which is happening throughout the city. So they're really good people, and they do good work. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Third and last time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Or, if you're a little reluctant, sign-in sheets are on the windows. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Jim O'Leary. I live at 115 Bates Ave, which...
We go back.
Yes,
we go back a ways.
Way back.
Blizzard of '78, Jim, I think.
Yes. It was more fun then, though. I live at 115 Bates Ave, which is the next house up on Bates Avenue from 37. Almost 72 years ago, my mother brought me home from the hospital there. I haven't lived there my entire life. I've been in the Army, and I lived for a short while at Randolph. But the rest of my life, I've been at 115 Bates Ave. Oh, 75 Hall Place for a few years, too. The rest of it was in Bates Ave. And my issue with Bates Ave right now is there's already too many cars on that street. I don't care what time of day it is, what day it is, or anything else. There's too many cars out there. I have to wait most of the time to pull out of my driveway because there's cars going by. And they're not going slow. And what we're proposed, or what's being proposed here tonight, is to take a residential home with what, 2 cars? That's what the average family has, the average couple. And we're going to replace it with 24 cars. That's 11 times, 12 times what's there now. That's not the way to help traffic problems. That's going to increase problems. This is zoned for business. Why don't you put a business there that's going to have traffic during business hours instead of all weekend, every morning, every night, and all in between? That's only going to make traffic worse. And for that reason, traffic. I have nothing against the developers, okay? It's the traffic I don't like. I don't need any more traffic going by my house on Bates Ave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? I'll be recorded in opposition. Third and last time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? I'm going to read two pieces of correspondence that we've received at the department. First one's addressed to me. Attaches a copy of the constituent mailing notifying and encouraging area residents to attend the Wednesday, April 11th Planning Board hearing on the application C18-16, 37 Bates Avenue for Galvin Development Company for 37 Bates Avenue. Mr. Galvin is seeking to demolish the house that currently sits on the property and construct a new 12-unit apartment building similar to the one that Galvin Company built next door. I held a community meeting on the proposal on or in late March with the applicant and his attorney that was attended by area residents. Roughly 890 area residents received my letter inviting them to the community meeting, and I have mailed the same residents informing them of the ZBA hearing. The general sentiment expressed at the community meeting by the residents in attendance was that they were approving of the proposed building designs consistent with the existing structures nearby. However, they had deep concerns about overall existing traffic and speeding in the neighborhood. In my capacity as the City Council, I have asked the traffic parking alarm, wow, they got quite a variety of departments. The lighting department to evaluate the traffic situation in the area, as well as the requested the Quincy Police Department to increase enforcement patrols. I've asked any resident who called or emailed me to specifically communicate their thoughts, questions, and opinions to the board directly. Sincerely, Brian Palmucci, Ward 4 Council. The other piece of correspondence that has been directed to both the board, the zoning board, and more importantly to the planning board, to whom it may concern, as a resident of the Ward 4 West Quincy neighborhood, I'm writing to oppose the density of the proposed development at 37 Bates Avenue. I appreciate that the Galvin Company is making improvements to the area. However, this section of Bates Avenue is at the corner of Willard Street and is already fraught with traffic and vehicular congestion. The little strip mall at the beginning of Bates Avenue already creates an abundance of parking issues and traffic tie-ups during the business hours. As the most convenient entrance and egress to the neighborhoods across the expressway, the area is already overburdened with traffic. Parking is a huge issue in the area, and I fear that another 12 condo units on top of the 12 currently being built next door will only exacerbate the situation. The area is not convenient to the public transportation, and so new residents will most likely have 1 to 2 cars per unit. If the project of this size is considered, then off-street parking for at least 2 dozen cars and guest parking should be mandated. Any street parking on this narrow strip area should not be tolerated. This is essential to keep the street passable. I would also be really nice if some of the units were designated as affordable housing. There is a building expansion in the city that leaves our lower income neighbors unable to keep up with the rents in the new buildings that have displaced them. I'm not sure where they will live and don't believe enough attention is being paid to keeping the city somewhat accommodating to those whose incomes have not kept pace with the rising costs of living. Thank you for your consideration on these issues. Sincerely, Denise Mulcahy, 220 Gardner Road, West Quincy. And a copy also with Council Plummer. All right, we do not have the peer review report back yet. Is that correct, Mr. Stevens?
That is correct, yeah.
So we, without that, we're not going to move forward. So I would ask. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Barrett.
Just a quick question for the applicant. So 108 and 109 California Avenue, anything different about those properties than what's being proposed tonight? Basically the same idea, condos, same sort of tenants moving in. And the reason I ask is because it sounds like we have a unique situation where you've basically done the project right next door and you've seen the impact, how many cars these residents have. What has the situation been to date? How many cars have the people that have been moving into the units at 108 and 109 been having? Have there been traffic problems when it comes to parking on weekends or overnight? Just trying to get a feel. I drove by the site, but not at a time that I could really get my head around what nighttime parking looked like.
Sure, glad to answer. I'm Sean Galvin. The 2 buildings that are there, in fact, the 3 buildings that are there are all 2-bedroom apartments. In general, we have about 1.5 cars per unit. It's been pretty typical. We actually have 2 units currently that have no cars. At the bottom of California Ave, where it meets Willard Street, there's a bus stop. And that bus stop is, if you go by in the morning, is pretty well used. We have no on-street parking because of these buildings. That has not been a problem. There's always been sufficient parking. Also, between the buildings, we have walkways so that you can actually park in any of the lots and traverse the properties without parking on the street and park your car in any of our lots. So if there were to be overflow, we would certainly handle that if that was the situation. But to be honest with you, we've been here now since 2007, 6, and I don't think we've ever had an instance where someone had needed to park on the roadway and not been in the parking lot or been able to find a parking space. Our operations are that we assign 1 space per unit, and the other space is floating, so it's never, the second space is never tied up or left vacant or unusable because it's assigned to another unit, so that you've always got the ability to park in one of the unnumbered spaces. So if you do have guests, they're able to use the unnumbered spaces, but everybody always has the guarantee of their 1 parking space. And that's worked out really successful for us for the last 10 years or so.
Very helpful.
Just one comment on the letter from the neighbor. There is an affordable unit component to our project. In fact, each of the other 2 buildings also have an affordable unit in those, and those are through the city's affordable housing ordinance requirement, and this also will have an affordable unit in as well.
The general market rates on these units are substantially less than a lot of the new buildings being built, where you're seeing an average rent of around $2,500 to $3,000 a month for a 2-bedroom unit. These units will run between $1,750 and about $1,900 a month. Doesn't sound affordable, but it is much more affordable than a lot of the new high-end units.
This is a follow-up comment to Mr. Galvin, since I was involved in the drafting of affordable housing ordinance. I was going to say the same thing. It is subject to the Affordable Housing Trust. Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr.
Could you tell me how many units are in 108 and 109 and the size of those lots?
Those lots are a little bit bigger than this one. They're, I don't remember exactly. I want to say they're probably in the 18,000 square foot range. They do have 2 parking spaces per unit, and that's why they were originally designed. There are 10 apartments in 108 California Ave, which is on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, which abuts this property directly, that's 12 units, and that's what this building, that's the building you see here in the picture, and that's what this building is modeled after.
Yeah. As a follow-up to that, if you could stay there, off to the right there, outside of the yellow lines, is like, it looks like 2 white cars with white vans. Is that your property? Are those parking spots? Nope, down on the right, in like the wedge.
This area here? No, that actually belongs to Commonwealth Building. Their name is, and they actually have a parking lot which goes all the way to the large building down in the bottom.
And you said there was a path. So do you allow your residents to park in your office lot?
Yep, there's a path that starts here, comes up, enters this property, and then we've proposed, if you look at the drawing, another set of stairs here, so you will actually be able to get all the way down. You can also cross the street.
And so your office is a daily thing, so at night if somebody's having guests, that's been used in the past?
Yeah, there's 25 spaces in that lot, and there are 6 units in that building, so there's always 12 additional spaces in the evening, 12, 13 spaces.
And the only thing that hasn't been spoken of too is the trash removal and snow removal.
So our proposal is that the new building will share the trash dumpster, which is located here at 109, and that also is the reason for the stairs between the 2 properties. And in terms of snow removal, in the large storms, we typically have to have the snow removed from these sites, and we would continue to do that from this property.
And you do that at 108 and 109?
We do that at 108 and 109.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. As I started to say, since we do not have a peer review, I entertain a motion to continue this until our, I think it's May 13th?
9th.
May 9th? 9th?
Yes, May 9th.
May 9th.
9th, excuse me. Motion? Huh?
I'm not coming to a meeting, so.
Try it.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
The next item is a public hearing for major revisions to site plan for 129, 131 Summit Street, planning board case 2016-17. I'm trying to get Council Crowell's attention. In accordance with provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, the Quincy Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 11, 2018, on or about 8:15 p.m. in the first floor Boards and Commissioners Room, Quincy City Hall, 1305 Hancock Street, Quincy, Mass, for an amendment of the approved site plan review on the application of Summit Street Realty Trust, David J. Bauer, trustee, 87 Swomey Road, number 2, Quincy, Mass, 02169. For the site plan review on the Quincy zoning ordinance, Title 17, Section 9.5, site plan review. The applicant proposes the addition of 1 unit and 1,490 square feet to an already approved site plan for a total of 8 units and 17,606 gross square feet of living area, including the garages. The site plan includes 26 parking spaces. The property contains 43,268 plus or minus square feet of land, and combined lots are located at 129 Sumner Street and 131 Sumner Street. The subject properties are located within a Residence B zoning district and are shown in Assessors Plan 2052 as Lot 2 and Lot 3. Mr. Harrington.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. For the record, Christopher Harrington, my law office is at 21 McGrath Highway, and I represent the developer, David Bowering. This project was here before you approximately a year ago. It was approved for site plan review for a 7-unit development. And the 7 units were the there are 3 duplex buildings here, so 2, 2, 4, 6. The 7 units were these 6 new units, as well as the house that is here on Sumner Street. That's an existing house. When we filed that application, our desire was to try to save that house. It was a nice old house. It was in good condition. It had been well kept and well cared for by the previous owners, and we thought that it fit in nicely with the streetscape. And we thought, we'd like to try to save it and not tear that house down. The zoning for this property, based on the size of the lot, allows 9.6 units. Obviously, you can't build 0.6 units, so it's a 9-unit development by right. And we came in with a 7-unit plan. And the reason why we had the 7 units is because we couldn't fit another one of these duplexes in the space between the house in that area in the middle where we have guest parking spaces. So the 6 new buildings are built. The front house has been completely renovated. There's a substantial amount of renovation work to it to make that house even nicer, to make it more attractive and more desirable to a buyer. But we've come up with a plan where we want to add 1 unit to the site. And the unit has been designed by Brian Donahue, our architect, for the style of that unit to mimic the White House that's out in front, so that they match and they look good together. And what we're planning on doing is building the unit in the space that's behind the White House. We're still below the amount of units that are allowed by zoning. We don't violate any of the setback requirements for front yard, side yard, or rear yard. We're not violating stories or the height of the building or anything. This project doesn't require any variances. And so the change we made essentially is to, on the original plan that you approved, there was a garage right here. And that garage was for the White House. And so the change is that we're adding this hallway in the middle, we're adding another 1-car garage here, and we're putting a condominium unit above those 2 garages. So what we'll have here is this garage will be for the unit that's up here on the 2nd floor above the garages, and this is the unit that's right here. And this unit will have a parking space in the garage. It will have a parking space underneath the deck. The deck will serve as a carport on the side for the 2nd parking space. And what we've done with every one of these units, you can see it on the site plan, SP 1.1. Every one of these units has a space in the garage and it has a space in front of the garage doors. And on every unit, it also has a gravel spot that's next to the driveway, which is an extra guest parking space, so that every single person has an extra space in front of their unit. So if someone comes to visit, there's a space right in front of their unit where their guest can park. So even with these changes, we have 26 parking spaces. We have more than 3 parking spaces per unit, and we're way above the minimum that's required for parking for Residence B. I'd like to introduce Bob Rigo, who's our civil engineer. He could talk very briefly about the changes to the site plan. The changes were extremely minimal, just we had to relocate a catch basin and the stormwater infiltrators to accommodate the new foundation.
For the record, my name is Bob Rigo. I'm with Riverhawk Environmental. Just briefly, Chris pretty much covered everything, but what we did was we just had it as a subsurface infiltration unit, which was proposed a little closer to Summer Street. We took that unit and slid it to the rear of the site a little more towards the units on the southerly portion of the property. And just reconfigured a catch basin over here, reduced the guest parking space, what was previously 6 spaces, we're reduced down to 3 spaces. And that provided enough space to fit that garage and unit that was discussed. Everything else is the same. The water service, the sewer service are all shown in the exact same location as the approved project, with just some service connections to the site, and as with the gas too. The access in and out of the property is again unchanged. It's still the same driveway access in and out Summer Street.
Ryan, you want to talk about the architectural plan?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Brian Donahue, principal of Donahue Architects here in Quincy. The applicant asked us to look at the possibility of adding another unit on site. As Chris mentioned, there wasn't really room to add another duplex in our initial planning process, so once we got underway, it was evident that there is some available property here that we could look to put another unit. The scale of the new building is more similar to the house than it is to the duplexes. It's relatively small, as Chris mentioned. There's 2 spaces underneath, one for the existing house and one for this unit. The unit itself is relatively small. It's 2 levels at about 750 square feet, so it's about a 1,600 square foot unit. The architecture is fairly straightforward, traditional New England shingle style design. This is the front elevation off the drive with the garage doors, the second floor built into the roof, third floor built into the roof. So we've got basically 3 levels, but the prominence of this building is no more than a single family house fronting onto Summer Street. Again, we're tying that architecture in with the existing house. It's got a little bit of maybe 2 or 3 feet more elevation in the ridge line, and in terms of height, it's not overwhelming. In size and scope and massing, it's not overwhelming to the site, I believe. So we're also maintaining a good number of guest spaces off the rotary. So that's pretty much it.
Any questions on the board?
Is it like an access road going in there or something? Is that what it looks like?
It is. It's a private driveway that serves all 7 or 8 units, depending on if you choose to approve this tonight.
So these are the 3 buildings that are under construction now. A couple of them completed. This is the existing house. So we're putting this smaller unit right behind it. And the guest parking remains.
And the reason why we're here, obviously, is because we're trying to figure out a plan B for that White House, what we thought the best use of it would be, trying to make it a unit within the development. So we want that unit to be as attractive as the others, but also some of the prospective buyers who have looked at some of these units. The six townhouses, the duplexes, are fairly large units, and some of the people who have come to look at the property, who have asked questions about it, have asked about having a smaller unit. So a person who, either a young couple that doesn't need or want a big unit, or an older couple downsizing, wants to have a smaller unit. So we wanted to give people an option of being able to buy a unit that was more in the size range of most of the other townhouses being built in the city, and not these large townhouses that are being with the other 6 units. Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, come forward, identify yourself. And if you're reluctant to not to speak, we have the sign-in sheets on the side. Question? I talked you into it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm here this evening because I live at 82 Edinburgh. which is directly behind the center property. And regrettably for me, I was out of town when this project was first proposed. And I'm here tonight because I would like the opportunity to meet the developer, to talk to them. I have concerns about some sort of privacy fence. I feel as though I can reach out my bedroom window and put my hand in a window right in the back. When I pull in the driveway, my headlights are going to face right into what I think might be a living room. I have no idea and have tried to find out, how many bedrooms per unit? Are they condominiums? Are they going to be rental units? I grew up on Edinburgh. I've been there for 63 years, between 82 and 86. Last summer was difficult living through the construction, unable to open windows, and I'm not opposed to more housing. I've been at the Quincy Housing Authority for 31 years. The city does need more affordable housing, and that small white house in the front, I remember when it first went up for sale, one day I saw a for sale sign. My son was moving back from Florida. I thought, wow, that might be a good buy. And then the next thing you know, this is what we have. They have done a good job. It looks good, but at the same time, I wanted to meet the developer and find out, can we work together and what's going to continue to develop there in my backyard. And I'm concerned come summer, what's it going to be like when I open my bedroom window? I hope that I'm not going to have to put up with, noise that's going to keep me awake at night. So, thank you for hearing me. Barbara Niles, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Niles, we'll be happy to meet with you anytime you want. We've, the entire perimeter of the property is going to be surrounded by a 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence. In fact, I believe the fence is already on site. It just hasn't been installed yet. So there will be white vinyl fencing that runs around the entire property to block that off. And we want to talk about adding some trees specifically between your house and that unit.
I want to take you down trees because there's such a small space back there. When my father and I in 1974 built the house I live in, we had actually asked the Contis, could we buy a little land just to extend the backyard? So this is like, I look out my window now and I just see apartment complexes or these buildings, when I used to look out on a beautiful green lawn. So I would like to introduce myself. Barbara Niles.
It's right here. It's right behind this unit.
Right, I thought I'm the closest one to.
So we're gonna be putting a fence all on here, and this is 25 feet. That's as tall as you think it is.
It seems that when you're, when you're in the house looking up. But I would like the opportunity to actually meet with you there at the site.
Well,
And I recognize from looking out my bedroom window.
But I mean, it's already, the fence is there, it's gonna be installed, so you know it's coming, 6-foot fence.
Right, but I'd like to talk about because there's, what do you call, saplings and whatnot, and, is it gonna, can we talk?
Sure.
Great.
Thank you. Every day, stop by.
And they're not rental units, correct?
They're condominiums.
For sale condominiums.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Third and last time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition or wants to be recorded in opposition? Third and last time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? For recommendations from the department?
The planning department reviewed the conditions and special conditions of the site plan review and the special permit approved by the planning board on February 8th, 2017, and consulted with other city staff It was determined that no changes to the approved conditions and special conditions are necessary. The department recommends approval of the major revision to the site plan under Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 9.5.1, site plan review, subject to the conditions and special conditions specified in the planning board decision dated February 8th, 2017.
As well, hearing the department's recommendation, can I have a motion to close the public hearing? For a second? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Counselor. Sure. Is there a second to the motion to close? Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, the department's made a recommendation. The recommendation is to approve the changes. And since there are no changes to the approved conditions and special conditions, but to recommend the approval of the changes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that is covered it. Our next meeting is Saturday, May 13th. Callahan, next meeting is Saturday, 13th. Callahan won't be here. Next meeting is the 9th of May. And also, everybody needs to sign.
There are 3 covenants and 2 signature
Can't go anywhere until you sign. You want a motion to adjourn?
So, it sounds like it.
Aye.